So it turns out this is something that I think I need to do, which is pull cards. And I don't mean I think I need to do it because I have some special purpose and I'm depriving anyone. That's not the... I need to do it because it's therapy for me. That's what this is. Pulling tarot cards is therapeutic for me. And not doing it has, I think, had an effect on my mental health, my experience of self. I didn't realize that. I knew to an extent that this was a therapeutic endeavor in the past, but I didn't realize just how important it was. As someone who has experienced chronic self-doubt over the course of this lifetime, and when I say self-doubt, I mean doubt of my own experience, doubt of my memories, doubt of things that I have felt, doubt of my experience, doubt of my own senses, my own sensory experience. It's been described as a behavioral trait. It's apparently a neurological function or malfunction, whichever way you choose to look at it. It is the hallmark of what had been obsessive compulsive disorder diagnosed in myself, which I no longer associate with, I no longer identify with, after having had severe head trauma and an identity crisis, an existential crisis, which I don't think those things really end, by the way. I think once you start one, it just keeps going, you know? The crisis is the very beginning, where you're going, oh my god, I am not this self, my sense that my identity is not as solid. Who am I really? What am I really? What is my existence? That whole thing. And then it kind of just ebbs and flows. I feel this is my personal experience, at least. And a big part of why I'm documenting all of this is because I know I'm not the only individual experiencing this kind of thing. Other people have before, they are right now, and they will continue to. And it is my desire to document this for science, if no other reason, and for pure self-expression. But I do hope that anybody somewhere experiencing similar things, I don't know, learns something about themselves. Excuse me, my nose is really trippy. Feels less alone, feels less insane, feels more connected. I don't know, but my experience of self has shifted, of course, tremendously over the course of the past 32 years, but very specifically the past, 7 and then 2. 7 years ago, I had an accident. I was in a skateboarding accident where I incurred a severe head trauma, forgot who I was, had complete amnesia for 24 hours, and then partial amnesia that recovered after that, but it changed my perception of existence and consciousness and set me off on this journey of really delving into what that is. What is consciousness? What am I? Who am I? What sort of traits, if any, can I use to define myself? And that's an ongoing question. That continues to be a question that I ask repeatedly, and I have an awareness that the core of self is without identity. It is without specific. It's without specificity. There is no specific identity attached to it. It's a general sensation. It is generally being. It is. It is love. It is life. That's at the very core. If there are any attributes that can be assigned to what I am, what self is, that's pretty much it. It's conscious, it's aware, it's very much aware and alive. It's not this nebulous, it's not unaware. I don't know how else to describe it. It's very much aware of itself and aware of everything and being everything. It's heightened awareness, it's expanded awareness, it's unlimited awareness. That is the self. And for then that to be funneled in through this experience of very specific, very individual, very defined, limited, restricted. It's a curious thing. And it only gets curiouser. But none of that is really why I'm here today. I'm here to pull a reading. I'm here to pull a reading right now. I haven't done this in several months, and it's been plaguing me internally, this sense of self-doubt in terms of, can I do this? Am I still capable of this? But the thing is, those are the same doubts I had at the beginning of doing this, and the same doubts that carried through. They really didn't go away. I began to realize that the doubts were not me. They were a separate voice. They were a voice inside of me, and that's something else that I'm acknowledging today, is that this doubtful voice is not my voice. It sounds like me. It would appear to be coming from me, and for as long as my memory in this physical lifetime persists, it has been there, and it's been there spewing doubt. So it's very old, and it has a lot of momentum. It's established. But there is more awareness now than I think there ever has been, that that voice is not mine. It's not me. It's not myself. It is not my soul. It is something else that really works through the mind explicitly. And it's helpful to just observe that. And a great tool that I found it's kind of an exposure therapy to take action that is in not exactly defiance, perhaps defiance of that voice, but something directly that would trigger that voice is pulling cards, is reading tarot, because nothing about this is scientific or provable. This is all feeling. The mental realm really has no bearing on any of this. It's got nothing to do here. And if I try to think about pulling cards, nothing happens. I get in the way of myself. But it's innate. It's natural. It's intuitive. That's what it is. That's why I felt this calling to do this. And that's why it feels so good to me, is because it just circumvents the brain and really forces me. It's deliberate. I'm choosing to do it. There's a lot of awareness in it. I am choosing to let go of the mental space and to focus on feeling and allowing whatever it is that comes up, that comes through, to come up and come through. And just let that be what it is, and stop trying to connect it, stop trying to make sense. A lot of times things do make sense. If I go back and look, there's all these connections to things. None of that was planned, obviously, and none of that is actually thought through. When those connections happen, it is spontaneous, it's instantaneous, it is just something flowing. The connections, the circuits are connecting in the moment. If I remember, if there's a callback to earlier in the reading, there's not a thought related to it. It's just happening, and that's kind of what's happening now, is my voice is flowing without me really thinking about what I'm going to say next. That's another reason that I like making these videos. That's another reason I started making these videos, whether or not I knew that when I started, is because this helps me tap into a flow state where I am not thinking. There is not thinking happening. There is no planning, there's no expectation of what the next thing out of my mouth is going to be, and there's no concept of where this is going to go next. It's just whatever feels like coming through, comes through. And that's what I fucking love about this, and that's why I encourage anyone, anywhere, to do this for themselves. It's not about anybody else, it's about experiencing this. What it feels like for your brain to take a back seat and you just start listening. And it's also why I encourage anyone who feels interested to start reading tarot, to start reading cards, read for yourself. It doesn't have to mean anything. You don't ever have to do it for someone else or in front of someone else if you don't want to. That's not required. But it is about tapping into that place, that deeper place within you that has inherent wisdom. You are connected to the entire quantum field with infinite knowledge. All of the knowledge of everything that ever was and ever will be is accessed through here, not through here. And when you are feeling it and asking for it with your feeling, you receive through feeling, same way, again, you have access to this infinite wisdom. And when you demonstrate that to yourself, you become more confident in it. And that is what has helped me tremendously in overcoming no longer listening to that voice of self-doubt, of saying, but did you really, is that really what happened? Recognizing that that voice is full of shit. That voice will never be satisfied. It has one role and one role only, and that is to question and to trick me into identification with it. If I'm identifying with it, then I feel like I have to answer. If I'm not, and I just hear it yammering on in the background, then it's just like white noise. It's like a car alarm in the distance. It doesn't mean anything. But that's why I'm here doing what I'm doing today. I think I would like to make another video with some pretty basic suggestions, just ideas for how to read the tarot for anybody who's interested. And these are just my suggestions for what has helped me on this path. They are not rules. There is no one way to do this. That's what's so amazing about it, is there are no mistakes. It's all about your guidance. The way that you read is the way that feels good to you. What you read, what comes through, is what feels right for you. There is no right or wrong. And that is really freeing. So this is freeing, and I can feel energy moving through myself when I do this. When I'm sitting here, I feel connected. I feel connected to the earth. I feel like there's this pillar that's moving straight through, and there is a lot that pools in the root and sacral chakra area. There's a big pool of energy there, and it feels good. This feels good. This feels like flow. This feels like excitement, but there's a peace to it. If the mind tries to get involved, it turns into nervousness. The excitement turns into nervousness. It starts asking all these questions, of course. What are you saying? What did you just do? What's going to happen next? It wants to know. None of that is relevant. None of that matters. I am here to feel myself and to listen to myself and to be open to whatever wants to come through. And today I want to pull a reading for the collective, because the collective energy has been fucking insane for the past several months. I mean, longer than that, but it's ramped up. It's just increasing and increasing, and I think it's bringing these, I don't even really want to call it shadow, these entities to the surface, these voices. What's your voice? What is your loudest voice? That internal critical voice that's been with you for as long as you can remember. What is its favorite tactic? Is it doubt? Is it shame? Is it blame? What does it feel like to you? What does that voice say, and how does it trigger you most effectively into believing that that voice is yours, and you are the one speaking. Because those voices have gotten very, very loud as of late. Louder even than I think they've ever been. And they all wax and wane. You know, they come out to feed. Sometimes they create a big hubbub so that they can feed. And they feed a lot, and then they kind of retreat. And then maybe it's just some sort of, pokes here and there. And really it just seems like it's in the background. And you forget. You forget and you go, oh yeah, I used to blah, 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 talk to myself this way, and now I really don't. And then suddenly it's back. And you're like, what the hell? I thought I was over this. I thought I was done. I thought I had overcome whatever through, no, because there was still an identification with that voice. You were still thinking that voice was yours. And as long as you're thinking that voice is yours, even in a past looking way, you are identifying with it and it is living through you. That's what it wants. That's really what it's seeking, is your identification with it as it. Because when you do that, you align with it. When your perspective aligns with it, it is able to tap into your energy and siphon your energy to feed it. That's what it wants. It wants to live through you, essentially, and that's the only way that it can. But once you realize that voice is not yours, and it never has been, and it never will be, it starts to lose its power, but also fight back. It gets tricky. It gets sinister. And I feel like this collective entity of doubt, shame, blame, whatever, all of this stuff, is aware that our awareness of it is growing. And the more aware we are of it, the less it's able to feed, to live through us, the less we're identifying with it. So it's making a big push to get that to happen again. It's really looming up large. That's a tactic that it has too. The more aware of it you become, you're dissolving it. You're lessening its grip on you. It's not going to let you think that, though. It's going to do everything it can to appear more powerful. It's going to summon up all of its stuff and puff up real big and go, oh, you thought you made me smaller? You're just making me bigger. Ha ha ha. It's going to do everything it can to trick you into thinking this is a lost cause, to just give up and realign with it, essentially. It's going to get really loud. Fear is its only tactic. So whatever form of fear that is, because shame and blame and anger and doubt, all of this is just forms of fear. That's its only weapon. And it's just sort of flinging it around now. It's flailing quite wildly. Doesn't want anyone to think that, but it's spiking because it is running out of gas. It knows. It knows, once we're aware of it, that it can't really gain that foothold back, that it's only a matter of time until it eventually dissolves. But here's the thing too, is once it happens in one person, it'll still keep trying to feed on that person, but it'll just focus, it might focus more energy on someone else who is less aware, less awake. So it wasn't a real concern in the past. It had plenty of fuel on this planet, plenty of unawake individuals to just hop into, which, I mean, it's got tendrils in everybody. But so, okay, this one's kind of resisting. We'll put a little more juice over here. No problem. And we'll for sure keep an eye on this one. And in a moment of whatever, greater unconsciousness, we'll pop right in there and we'll suck everything we can out of that. And it's sustained that way for a very, very, very long time. But now, because the collective awakening is taking place, it doesn't have as many options as it used to. And it's getting desperate, and in its desperation, it's getting careless. It's making big shows of force, and it's becoming more obvious. And the more obvious that it is, the easier it is to recognize and become aware. Awareness is our, I don't even want to call it a weapon, because we're not fighting. This is not a fight, and this is not the enemy. This is just the way consciousness grows. This is how we take back our power, by becoming aware of that which we were not aware of that which is not ourself. The more that I know about what is not myself, the more I know about myself. And yes, ultimately it is all self. Ultimately, even this was constructed by self to help the self identify its true form. It had to know contrast. It said, how do I know who and what I am? I have to know the opposite, so let me dream the opposite of self. What is everything that is not me, without putting any limits, without even knowing what that is, just saying, boom, there it is, everything that's not me. Now let me go explore that, so I can find out firsthand by sensory experience, which is the only way we truly know anything, direct sensory experience. Now I can find out what is not me, so I know more about myself. This has always been a journey of self-discovery. But we're at a new phase. We're at a new phase. I don't know exactly what I'm pulling on. This is just the collective energy that's swirling right now. That's everything that's been coming through. I know people are in pain. I know people are experiencing tremendous shame, tremendous grief, doubt, anxiety, depression, feeling lost, feeling stuck, feeling confused, feeling disoriented. All of that is happening right now. We're in a completely new place, completely new. And all of our methods of orientation in three-dimensional space are no longer functional, because we are no longer in that three-dimensional space. We're moving up. Technically it was fourth dimensional, somewhere between third and fourth. It's a sub-dimension, but we're moving up. We are getting closer to inhabiting pure fourth dimensional space, and then inching up into between 4 and 5D. That's where we're going. And all of our methods of spatial awareness really don't apply. It's like the gravity got changed. That's what it's like. It's like somebody dialed back the gravity, or maybe up, and just everything feels different. Left is right and up is down, and maybe those things don't even exist. We have a whole other dimension we're trying to explore, so how do we integrate that into our understanding of spatial reality? It's too much for a brain to handle, I'll tell you that, because the brain was created in third, fourth dimensional space, and now that we're moving out of that, the brain doesn't know what to do. The brain, as it was, is going to have to evolve, and it's evolving with us. But that means we have to leave behind the denser forms of thinking, the denser thought forms, the way that we used that brain. We can't use it that way anymore. It's not going to work. What else is here? I do get contracts, but I also get, yes, new people. Yes, specific connections. Connections. Things are connecting. Whether or not this is people, it's a circuit. That's the way that I feel it. We have new connections taking place, being made internally and externally. Everything is shifting so rapidly. I mean, we have this Eight of Wands, bookending the Ace of Wands. Yes, we're attracting a lot of new stuff in, because we're attracting very differently now. We're not attracting and we're not manifesting the same way either. That's changing too. The way that we used to go about attracting things is also shifting, because everything about our field is shifting. there's a lot of bullshit rising to the surface. It's bullshit floats. There's something here for us, many things here for us to look at. Old patterns. What are the old, I want to say connections, conduits, circuits that we've been wearing in, that have been worn in for so long? One of them is doubt. One of them is doubt. Page of Swords. And the deck split itself on anxiety as I was just going to set that down, and look, right underneath it is fear. So yeah, it's time to look at the throne that we sat upon. The throne of intellectuality, the throne of thinking we had it all under control. What was giving us false confidence? For me, something I definitely have noticed is a thing that had given me a lot of false confidence was feeling superior to other people. Like I knew more or knew better, that kind of thing. That creates this false sense of security and confidence that's very fragile, because it's a comparative. It's not derived from purely the internal space and experience. And of course, it inherently requires the diminishment of others in order to feel enhanced. And that Page of Cups, this is interesting. There's also just a lot happening with this Cancer new moon. There's a tidal wave of emotion. It's like all of this new stuff coming in that's showing us where we thought we had it all figured out. We were ass backwards. We thought we were a king. We're just a little page. Again, that's the feeling. That's the feeling. New understanding, humbling understanding. A lot of introspection. So let's talk about it. Let's pull a reading. What does the collective need to know right now? What can you tell me about this collective energy that I'm just going to trust and not try to figure out and not try to explain or expect? And if I don't understand, if I am not getting anything, then that's what I'm going to say, is I don't know. Then that's what I'm going to say. Just saw Judgment, and then I had a card jump out. So I am going to stop right there. I'm going to cut the cards first. Okay. King of Swords. Clear vision. The truth cuts. What's the card that jumped out? There's the King of Wands. It was the Queen of Wands in the pre-shuffle, but this was kind of the energy I was feeling. The fake it till you make it, the I'm better than you, therefore I feel better about myself, that kind of energy. This is what we're looking at. These two are not friends. These two do not get along. The King of Swords is all about truth. And he's here to put an end to this bullshit. This sits off to the side, but there's an overarching energy of this is bullshit. This is, it's got bullshit written all over it. It is the fake throne. Look at that. Underneath the King of Swords, I was curious, is the High Priestess. Guided by intuition, the inner truth, that which cannot be demonstrated externally. It's just known, and it's trusting that. The King of Wands does not follow intuition. The King of Wands is all about surface. There's doubt there. There's posturing. appearances, people pleasing, just a bunch of superficiality. And it's being brought up, it's being brought to light so that it can be exposed and it can be really cut out, in the sense of cut that out. I mean, it's all the same. The English language really is quite interesting, all language, but it's fun being a native English speaker, recognizing the way that energy has informed English with certain phrases like cut that out. Because that's a bunch of bullshit, and we're not doing that anymore. So what's on top? Four of Wands. It's a new path. Again, the Four of Wands is the path to the Ten of Pentacles. But we're embarking, it's just the way that I feel this, we're embarking on a very new journey. One that is all about balance, actual balance here. Justice, balance. It's just supremely balanced. It's just so even across the board. And it is, I mean, we've got, there's a lot of yellow. Confidence. Trust. Again, things coming to light in the court of law, having to tell your truth. I am drawn to the sword that justice is holding as well. It's time for the truth to come out. It's time for some internal justice to be served. But it is interesting that earlier today I was out in describing this experience of internal doubt. I said it is like being on trial in my own mind. And I am forever this witness that is being forced to testify and try to prove myself. It's time to realize that the judge is on your side. The judge believes you. There is nothing to prove here. It just is what is. You don't have to prove yourself. You can trust yourself. What's in the soul? There's the bullshit. There's the fucking bullshit I was smelling. I felt this Seven of Swords. I felt that King of Wands. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if anyone believes me. I felt it. And we have 3 yellow cards here, which is very interesting to me. Cards with prominent yellow, at least. All of the shit in the mind is what covers up the soul energy. All of the questioning of the mind, saying, really, is that really what you feel? Are you sure? Feeling is how we access our guidance. And when we're thinking, we can't feel. They can't happen simultaneously. They are separate processes, and the mind is not designed to feel. It thinks. That's what the mind does. And it wants you to keep thinking. That's what these entities, these voices, use. They know if they can keep you out of feeling, out of being, they're keeping you out of your power. They're keeping you out of awareness. And the mind, being what it is, has become accustomed to running 24/7, to perceiving everything as a problem. It's just a bunch of shit. Truth does not live in the mind. There is no truth up here. If you're looking for truth, you're not going to find it. It's a load of bullshit. Deception energy can only exist in the mind. It can't penetrate to the heart and the soul. This is the only place it can get to, which is also why dropping into your heart is a very powerful practice. Anything to get you out of identification with mental processes, with the voices in the head, anything to get you out of that. And you know what the mind will say, again, because it's very tricky, it'll call that a problem. If you decide that you're not going to follow the mind into problem creation, if you're not going to perceive any more problems, the mind immediately will say, well, that's a problem. You can't do that. That's problematic. Here's why. Let me pull out the charts. I got a pie graph. We've done studies. Suddenly it's got a whole whiteboard full of information to show you about why it's a problem for you to stop thinking, why it's a big problem for you to stop creating problems or trying to solve them or any of that. Because really, when you're perceiving a problem, you think you're problem solving, but you're problem creating. All problem solving is just creating more problem for you to then solve. That's how it repeats itself. The soul is sneaking around this too, though. That's in here as well. It's fucking obvious now. It's not as sneaky. Look, this guy is not as sneaky as he thinks he is. He's making a big old fucking racket. And it's all working in the soul's favor. Ultimately, it's getting in. The soul energy is getting in. It doesn't matter how much of this is standing in the way. It's cutting through because it's time. It's time for that shit to be done. It's time for the King of Wands to be taken down. To realize he is the Burger King. He's the king of nothing, ultimately. What's the message from the universe? Strength. Look at all of this yellow. Courage. It's internal. It's the strength card implies fear. There is fear here, absolutely. The strength card says don't be driven by fear. That is what it says. That to me is the meaning of the strength card. Do not let fear drive you. Turn and face it. That thing that you are fleeing from, that thing that is, everything in you is saying run away from, stop. Stop running. Even though every impulse in your body is screaming to run, stop running. Turn and face that thing. Do that thing. That thing that you are afraid of, do it. Face it. Walk into it. Lean into that fear. Don't let fear control you. Don't let fear make any decisions in your life. And in fact, if it is pushing you away from something, turn and lean into that thing. Go towards the thing that fear is pushing you away from. That's where your power is. Fear is trying to keep you out of your power. So it's a direct sign pointer to where it is. Go in the opposite direction that fear is telling you to. There's that Ace of Wands again. Go where you've never gone before. Go into the fear. You're safe there. Universal forces are on your side. You are on your side. The rest of you. Even if it looks like the odds are stacked against you, even if it looks like it's all impossible, it's going wrong, even if you feel like you can't trust this, do it anyway. It's okay if you don't trust it. Do it anyway. I am going to clarify this with the witches. I was going to use the little animal deck. I had it pulled out. And then I felt the inclination to use a different deck. If I can grab it, there we go. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go with the flow. We're going to trust this, right? King of Pentacles at the bottom of this deck. Nine of Wands, Ace of Pentacles, Eight of Cups, Knight of Pentacles. Something's been stuck. There's something we haven't looked at for a really long time. Something's been stuck. in us, and it's been keeping us stuck. It's time to move away from it. There's that fucking Seven of Swords again. It's time to move away from it. It's not really keeping us there. It's because we chose to stay there. That's it. It has no binding power. It has no control over us. And the illusion of control that it had is growing very weak. It's growing thinner and thinner by the day. It is ready to break. It's time to move on to something new. This is a pattern. This is a habit. This is habitual. Look at all of this pentacle energy. This is heavy, stuck. Knight of Pentacles, Ace of Pentacles. This is what we're moving away from. This is where we've been stuck. This Nine of Wands, tired, resistant, Eight of Cups, unhappy, unfulfilled, knowing that we wanted to move. These are both right on the edge of moving away, moving into something new. And there's that Seven of Swords, keeping us in this loop. But I actually like this Four of Cups in this context right underneath. It's this, we're saying no thanks, like this little guy right here. We're saying no thanks to this bullshit energy now. Now we're onto it. We're realizing, oh, I've been choosing to repeat this pattern. I've been choosing to believe that this voice was mine and therefore take on what it was saying as truth, as my beliefs. I don't actually believe what this voice is saying, and what it's saying is not from me. It's not in alignment with me. I can just let it talk. I can just let it talk and not line up with its perspective. I can just not care what it's saying. I don't have to listen to it. What kind of power does that unlock? Boom, a tidal wave. Page of Cups again as well. Yes, it's new. Yes, we feel small and a little uncertain in this new emotional space. But we recognize there's so much power there, and it's breaking loose this stuck energy. And what is just on the other side of that? A whole new world. And, by the way, that Ten of Pentacles, which the Four of Wands is leading us to. A world where our happiness is real, our stability is real. So let's clarify. Let's talk about that Four of Wands. Why is this here? Tell me about the Four of Wands. Why is this here? And I want to say right now, there's a voice in my head saying, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to do this. You haven't done this in so long. You're not good at it. You're whatever, just full of shit. You don't know. That voice is talking right now. I can hear that voice. And I am choosing to keep doing this anyway. I'm choosing not to take that voice on as my own. Look at that. Why is the Four of Wands here? Justice. Because it's time for balance. It's time for this shit to get resolved. It's time for this court case to end. It's been dragging on and on and on. It's time for this to be done. What's the card that fell out? Seven of Wands. This needs to move through. We're finally reaching a higher perspective on this, a higher ground. I'm actually going to pull two cards anyway for this. So, why is the Four of Wands here? Surrounding energy of justice, because it's time for something to resolve. Why? Because we're getting a new perspective on it. That's what's helping it resolve. We're allowing the emotion to flow through. We're recognizing that Intuition is all we need. Feeling is all we need. And we can trust feeling. It's a rise of feminine energy, absolutely. We're feeling a lot more. I get a lot of that Cancer energy too. We're realizing that really all we need to do is step out of the thinking space and let the feeling happen. That's it. Why Queen of Cups? That just slid out of my hand. It's the star. Flow. The flow of water, the flow of emotion, and also it's time. Why is this happening now? Because it's fucking time. Because the case is done. Because the judge is tired of sitting here. They know. They know. This is finished. Court adjourned. Case closed. King of Wands guilty of fucking bullshit. Brain, we don't need it. We don't need to sit in the brain. We don't need to listen to that voice. We can just let it pass by. When we are letting things flow, we are in the flow. When we are not trying to control the voice in our head, when we're stepping out of it and into feeling, we're in the flow of our own energy. We get sucked out of it when we're pulled up into the mind space, the mental prison. And that's what keeps us feeling out of flow with life, too. If we want to feel in flow with life, we want to feel in flow with ourself, which means we got to step out of thought, out of thinking, into the emotion, into the intuition. When you are here, when you're dwelling here, you are connected. You feel your connection to everything that is. You feel in the flow, and you can make decisions from this space. This is what's going to guide you on the path to the Ten of Pentacles, which is this Four of Wands. When you are here, when you encounter a decision, instead of using your problem-solving brain, shove it in the back seat and ask your guidance. Connect with yourself. Say, I recognize there is no problem here. There is perhaps an occurrence taking place around me, and I am asking myself, what action, if there is any, would be right for me to take at this time? And you ask, and you wait, and you feel. And if there is an action to take, you will get a response that inspires you in that direction. And if there is not, then you receive the message to simply let it be still in it, allow it. There is no need for you to take action at this time. Just let it be. That's how we not problem solve, but handle every situation, which none of which is a problem, in all of life experience. Just dropped a good portion of the deck. I'm going to pick that up and put it back. Tell me about justice. Tell me about justice. Why is justice here? I get that it's just time. It's time for this. It's time for this. Why is justice here? Tell me more about what this means. What is this justice? Again, that voice in my head saying, you don't know what you're doing. As that happens, the Chariot falls out. It fell out upside down. I just get that as a correction. We're correcting an imbalance. We're correcting an imbalance. Primarily, what was that imbalance? What we were allowing to guide us. The Chariot is driven by two horses. There's a lot of different descriptions of what each of these horses represents. But for me, in this moment at least, one of them would be the mental space, would be intellectual, would be the mind, would be ego, would be that voice in your head. The other one would be the place of pure feeling that has nothing to do with thinking, your actual guidance, your internal guidance. There is something here about masculine and feminine energy. Feminine energy is the guidance energy. But there is an important component, which is giving the feminine guidance energy permission to step into the foreground. That's the role of masculine energy. Masculine energy has been tied up in this intellectual space for a long time. And while it's been up here, it's become overpowering, domineering, and pushing the feminine guidance soul energy down. Now that the soul energy is creeping up, which it has been for quite some time, and it's speaking in a way that will not be denied, the masculine energy is being asked, we are being asked to utilize our masculine energy to say, I am choosing to stop flowing so much focus into the mind and to just listen. I'm choosing to listen to the feminine energy, to listen to my own soul, my own feeling, my own intuition. I am saying, okay, what do you have to say? Not, well, we call all the shots and whatever you say doesn't matter. Yeah, feelings wishy-washy, we can't trust that. That's what it's been for such a long time. We're using masculine energy to deliberately give permission to the feminine soul to step forward into the forefront and to guide us from there. By the way, the card at the bottom of this is the Knight of Cups. More emotion. Again, heart, leading with the heart. This is the most compassionate, loving of knights. Emotionally open, expressive, vulnerable. Why is the Chariot here? There's that King of Pentacles again. And I was thinking, not the most feminine energy, still very masculine. The most feminine of masculine energies is actually the King of Pentacles. He is the most balanced of all the kings. Generous, yes, the other things too, but balanced. Grounded in emotion. Grounded in the heart space. Did you know you can ground into your heart? This is something that just came up for me in a big way pretty recently. You don't have to ground through your feet. You don't have to ground into the earth. You can ground into your heart. And that can be a really empowering, stabilizing thing to do. Feel yourself breathing through the heart. Breathe into, literally through, breathe into the heart. You're drawing your attention here. You're focusing here. And then you're just allowing whatever sensation to be, but you're pulling energy out of the mind space and into the heart space, and you're becoming open, receptive, allowing. Ground in the heart. Tell me about this Seven of Swords. I almost called it a Seven of Pentacles. As I'm saying that the King of Swords falls out of the deck, flips out of the deck. Once again, we're done with the bullshit. Once again, we're cutting this shit out. Because it covers up the soul, it covers up the guidance. When you're stuck in the mental prison, in the mental space, I just saw the Four of Pentacles, which we tend to be because of fear. We only are because of fear, because we're trying to control and we think that we have control when we're figuring something out ahead of time, when we're analyzing, we're going to figure it out, that's how we're going to control it. When you're stuck in that space, you cannot hear the guidance of your soul. You can't tap into it. You can't really access feeling. And it's a trick. It keeps you cut off from your guidance. So your mind will do something like create a problem and tell you, we got to fix that. What is that doing? Trying to exert control. And how do problems make you feel? Because now you feel like you got to fix something. Something's broken. Something's wrong. I got to exert my power over this. Now I feel anxious. I feel worried. I'm worried about this problem. And when you are worrying, that energy overwrites other feeling. Anxiety takes over the body. It usurps your entire nervous system. And so now you're activated in this way, and it's like blocking all of your nerves in a way. It's flooding you with the signal of fear. And when that megahorn is blaring so loudly through your body, you can't hear the subtle messages of the soul trying to get through. It's all covered up. You can't reach it. And that's a part of the mental pattern of control. And then what does that do? So you've perceived a problem, you feel anxious about it. Now you're noticing that you feel anxious and you don't like that. That doesn't feel good. And so feeling anxious becomes a problem. Do you see how this forms a perpetual cycle? Problem, anxiety, problem, more anxiety, more problem. And all of it just keeps you out of your actual guidance, out of the soul, out of the place where you can actually feel peace. Because when you're in the heart space and you're connected to everything, you feel the peace of your being. You're connected to the knowing of all that is. You have the knowledge of your well-being, not up here, in here. And then you realize there are no problems. Everything's good. Oh, everything's fine. Now that I'm in this space, I recognize there are no problems. But here's the thing. You have to recognize that there are no problems to help you get into that space. But it is tremendously useful, if you're struggling with that, to focus on practices, any kind of practice that gets you out of the brain and into the heart. Card that fell out as I was shuffling is the Page of Pentacles. We're learning something in a big way here. Again, we're learning how this trap has functioned. We're learning about an internal fear trap that has been established and installed for a very long time in each and every one of us. And now that we're learning about the presence of the trap, we're learning how to dismantle it, which is by shining a light on it, the light of our awareness. Yeah, again, that has to do with superficiality. Queen of Wands again. King and Queen of Wands right here. And when we are consumed with that, we don't have access to our actual desires either. We're afraid of something. When we're perceiving problems, we attract more problems. We're starting to realize this. This is the pattern. The long-term High Priest or Hierophant pattern. This is how we've been attracting. By allowing the mind to perceive problems and then trying to solve them, we're attracting more problems. And we're not getting anything that we actually want. It's all superficial, surface level, temporary bullshit kind of stuff. Now that we're looking at that bullshit, we're starting to see it for what it is. Why is the Page of Pentacles here? There's that Two of Cups again. I am getting that now is the agreed upon time for this. I feel this connect with the star. This divine timing. I do get a contractual energy, but it's just like a now, again, now is the time. We agreed that now would be the time. That's why everything is ramping up, because the date is here, the due date, because the final day of the trial has arrived, because it's just, this was set in motion a long time ago, and it's happening now. This clarity, this new understanding, this aha moment is happening now. There is an influx of light. I can tell you that. We are getting, all of these solar storms, we are being bombarded not just by our sun, but by suns across the universe. They're sending us light to assist with this right now, to help us have these revelations, to help expose the patterns of control that have been keeping us down, keeping us in the dark. And how we have been subjecting ourselves to them. We're not prisoners, we put ourselves in this position. We are the prisoners of our own thoughts willingly, because we gave ourselves up to them. We allowed the subjugation to occur. It's time to stop. It's time to stop. It's time to cut that shit out. Tell me about the strength card. We have the strength to do this. We do. We have the strength. We have the power. We are being supported in so many ways to perceive this. That's what it's all about. It's about awareness. It's about introducing awareness to the fact that this is what's been happening. This is what's happening. These voices that are not our own, we've been believing are our own, we've been aligning with, we've been giving them our energy. They work through the mind because they piggyback off the natural mechanisms of the mind, keeping us in this mental space where we are separate from the truth of our guidance. We can't hear it as clearly. Just had a card fall out, but I am going to keep shuffling. Interestingly enough, the more you inhabit the mind space, the less awake you are, the more unconscious you are. Because you're not actually being, you're not actually experiencing. Everything in the mind is conceptual. If you're trapped in the mind, you're not feeling anything. You're not directly experiencing it. Your experience of even sensations like hot and cold, you're thinking about them. You're conceptualizing them the whole time. You're not really in that experience. It's the whole, once you name the flower, you stop experiencing the flower because you've sucked your attention, your awareness into the mental space, the mental realm. You've flattened it. You've turned it into a concept, and you're not actually experiencing it anymore. It's time to get out of that space. Why is strength here? 5 of Pentacles. Yeah, we've been kept out in the cold. It's that kind of energy. We've been kept out of this, out of our power, out of our guidance, out of our intuitive knowledge, our body wisdom. We've been kept out of it for long enough, for a long fucking time. For a long time. I can tell you, this feels like a nuclear winter. This tree has been in this cold for a long, long time. But the sun is out. It's actually starting to thaw. That's what I'm feeling. We've got more direct penetrative light shining on this than ever before, and it's melting this. What's the card that flipped out? 2 of Swords. Again, a blocked, a held back kind of energy. I'm gonna put that with the 7 of Wands, which is the same kind of thing. It's the soul has done its own planning for this. The universe, how do I put this? It's like there was this deliberate buildup. Where the mind has held us out of our own guidance for such a long time, it's almost been like pulling a rubber band back. The longer that the mind has held us out of the light, the brighter that light has grown, even though we couldn't see it because we were held away from it. It's gotten brighter and brighter and brighter in our sort of absence from it. And our calling for it. Our calling is what made it so strong. The further we got from that light, the stronger we were shouting to find it. The louder our asking. And the louder, so that the greater our separation, the louder our asking. The louder our asking, the brighter and bigger that light got. We're at the tipping point now. It's ready to, it's punching through. That's the way I'm feeling it. Tell me about this strength card. Yeah, Wheel of Fortune. It's time for this to turn, for this to shift. We're shifting into a new phase, a new cycle. Red with the Queen of Cups. A new intuitive cycle, the era of intuition, the era of emotion. Being grounded in it. I am drawn to the Pentacle specifically on this. Even though we're talking about cups, I'm seeing mostly this Pentacle. Grounding in the intuitive space, grounding in the heart space. What else? 4 of Pentacles. Again, It's been held back until the time was right. This is about timing. And also it's like, of course it was always going to happen this way. The same thing I just described is like, the greater the fear was, the louder our asking for confidence. The greater the doubt, the louder our request for assurance. And it was always going to reach this point where it got so loud that it just came through. That it overpowered any resistance, any blocks. Abraham Hicks talks about this, how sometimes your desire gets so big that it just barrels through any resistance that you have remaining. That's always happening. It's always seeping around it. The universe is always flowing things to you, what you're asking for, around your resistance. It takes a path of least resistance. But sometimes your desire, your asking, is so strong that it just punches through. It just obliterates the resistance. That's what this is. And so that's why resistance serves us. That's why everything all the time is serving us. And how it not only can't stop us from receiving the knowledge of ourselves, the truth of ourselves, our well-being, receiving everything that we're asking for, it's actually enhancing our ability to ask. It not only can't stop us, it only helps us. But now is the time. Now is the time for all of it to come through, to come in. And it is piercing the veil. Tell me about this Ace of Wands. Final card. Ace of Wands, final outcome. It's brand new. The wand is lit. It's explosively lit. I don't feel like it's possible for this one to blow out. This feels like this is lit. This is lit by justice. This is lit by the hand of God. This is lit by the divine. This is it's fucking time now. So here we go. Tell me about this Ace of Wands, please. And I will say, again, every single time, every single card I've pulled, that voice is there. That voice is there, sowing doubt, sowing insecurity, saying, you're not going to know, you're not going to understand. This doesn't mean anything, you're just making it up, you're whatever, you're gonna freeze. That's a big one. The Fool. I mean, it's new. It's the 0 point. It's all new. It's up to you. There is a choice happening here. I don't feel like it's much of a choice, though, honestly, with that Chariot. It feels like, we're being pushed off the cliff. Like, it's time to jump. It's time to jump. What's under that? For the Ace of Cups. Yeah, there's a tidal wave behind this guy. It is that kind of thing. It's like, well, yeah, you can stay here and drown, or you can take the leap. Take your pick, Certain death, or maybe death. Maybe something unknown. If there's a chariot charging up behind you and you got one place to go, are you going to let yourself just be trampled by horses? Or are you going to leap and see what happens? The Moon. It's fucking scary, and we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. That's a big part of all of this. Yes, it's terrifying. Do it anyway. Trust. Oh, it's trust. It's not faith without fear. It's not faith. This is a leap of faith, right? It's not faith without fear. It's the Moon. Appropriate for the new moon energy, too. I really feel that. And I was talking, this comes to mind also, and I feel this is relevant, talking with my partner about a Cancer new moon and the feeling of, gosh, a new moon on the open ocean. Can you imagine that for a moment? The new moon, the darkest night, Just stars, if even that. Maybe the clouds are in the sky too, but no moon, no moonlight, no significant light being reflected. Open ocean, away from everything else. It's just black. Black above, black below, and you're in the water and you can't see anything. That's what this is. And because we're in the water, none of our normal methods of orientation, we can't see, we can't stand, we can't walk, we can't move the way we normally do. All of that goes out the window. And it's very scary. And for a moment, the mind absolutely panics. But what do? We go inward. We no longer have visual stimulation, fine. We go internally. We start listening inside. We start feeling. I can feel myself in the water. Hearing doesn't really make a difference either. It's all the same sound. In fact, most of the time, your ears are partially clogged. So, okay, I give up hearing too. I give up sight. I give up sound. All I really have is this sense of buoyancy. And I start to focus on that. And I focus on breathing. Just breathing. That whole thing again too about when you're trying to keep your head above water, the best thing to do is float, is to give up everything else. Recognize this is all you need. That's the only part that needs to be above water. And if you're floating on your back, your ears are covered, you can't see anything in this scenario, the sky is dark, but you can breathe. And that's all you're focused on. You're trusting that breath. You're trusting the rest to just happen. You have no control. It's total surrender. It's absolute surrender to wherever this ocean is taking you. You can't see. You don't know. You can't feel where the currents are flowing. All you get is a little bit of this. You're not going to be able to see or tell in any way where you're going with visual, external senses. It's all internal and it's all trust. But where are we going? Where are we going? And I want to show you something because I just saw this. I knocked these cards over and I saw this 10 of Cups when I did. On the other side of the world, there's a 6 of Swords. This is where we're headed. Where are we going? Some place that we've only ever seen in our dreams. Some place we've only ever been able to perceive internally. And we're not going to be, it's time to start trusting in here more than out there. It's time to stop not only relying upon the external world to give us information, it's time to stop putting it first. It's time to stop allowing the external to influence our internal and decide what we want our internal experience to be. Choose that. Choose to focus. Yeah, I just wanted to split the deck. And here's the Hermit. The inner guidance, the inner light. You are being guided. And you don't need to see where. You're everything you're used to. Every sense, everything you're used to knowing, using to perceive surroundings, it's not going to work here. Do it anyway. That doesn't mean anything's gone wrong. Don't let it suck you back into the mental space. The mind is going to try to pull you back into it. Just don't let it. If it does, focus back in the heart. Just keep focusing into the heart. I get that too from this Ace of Cups, absolutely. And there's Temperance underneath. The energy, the soul energy is flowing. And there's so much support coming in. Keep asking for support. It doesn't matter if you know who or what you're talking to. If you've asked for any kind of guidance from your team, from angels, from whatever deities, from anything, it doesn't matter if you've ever done that before. You don't have to know who you're talking to. Just ask your team your guidance operating on your behalf for your highest good to draw near to you and lend you support in whatever way they can. And say, I receive you, I trust you, I know that you are operating on my behalf. And that which is for my highest good, please draw near and give me whatever you can to support me in this time. And then just receive, just let it in. Feel it wrapping around you. Keep grounding into the heart. Keep recognizing that you can't get it wrong. Keep recognizing that what you feel and experience is valid. Remember that not knowing is not a problem. It is okay to not know. To the mind, that's a huge problem. But again, the mind likes to make everything a problem. That's what it does. And the mind likes to think that it knows, that too. It'll tell you, oh, you don't know? We gotta figure it out then. We gotta know. But anything that you're knowing up here isn't actual knowing. It's all concept. It's all imagination. The mind can't truly know anything. Knowing happens by the experience, the direct experience, which means without the screen of the mind involved. Take the mind glasses off, put them down, and sense directly what is. And in this space, recognize the mind doesn't have to know anything. It is okay not to know. And it's okay to be here in silence. It's okay to just be, to not have a direction, to not be taking an action. It's okay to have no inclination. It's more than okay not to know what's happening next. You don't need to know that. You don't need to know what's next. Just be now. The now is eternal. The now is secure. The now is safe. The now is free. It's peace. It's stability. The now is where your true knowledge is, which is really knowing nothing by our typical definition of it. It's no thinking. We equate thinking with knowing. They're really not at all the same thing. Intellectual knowledge is not really knowledge at all. You could call this wisdom. It is the truer. It is the more real. Everything else is just story, idea, concept, and all of it can fall away. You can know nothing up here with your words and your thinking, and know everything truly by your direct experience of it, allowing it to be and being with it. And yes, that voice is still there, and I'm just recognizing it. Recognizing that it's not pleased with this. It's not pleased with any of this. Not at all. It still wants proof. It wants to feel important. It's not convinced by anything here. It's still full of doubt. It hasn't budged at all in its position, and that's okay. I don't need it to move. I'm not it. It can stay lodged in doubt. The mind can continue creating problems. That's not a problem, and that is not my doubt. I can simply observe those things taking place. I don't have to align myself with them. I don't have to shape my perspective to that one. I can just be here. I can feel all the sensations that are being created in my body by this doubtful voice and the problem creating mind. I can just look at those and accept them as more of what is and not a problem. Because I'm pretty tired of that shit. I am pretty tired of being trapped in that mental cycle of continuous doubt and problem creation. I'm pretty tired of aligning myself with thoughts that create anxiety and then resisting the anxiety, calling it a problem, and guaranteeing more of it for myself. I'm pretty tired of that. I'm pretty bored with that method of creation. I'm pretty exhausted by that experience. And I think I'm done. And I'm going to keep reminding myself of that. And that whether or not that voice feels good about any of this here doesn't matter. I did this. I did this because I wanted to. Not because of a result I was trying to create, but because I wanted to. So, since my only goal was doing, I have succeeded wildly. That's it. That is the message for myself and any self that this resonates with. I do intend this resonates. If it does, let me know. Leave a comment, like, subscribe if you feel inclined. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. And trust that that voice in your head and the sensations it's creating, that's not yourself. Never has been. Never will be. Keep increasing awareness of that. You've got this. Always and in always, through every vector of time and space. I fucking love you. Take it easy.